What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another live stream. My name's Lewis, also known as MrCameraJunkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. Crew, welcome back. Episode number 61, and it is the first time that I do not have to have the air conditioning on. Yep, we've already come all the way into January, and this is like the first time, including like of last year's winter, that it's actually cold enough outside where the ambient temperature is just right, where nothing else is needed, not a fan, nothing, just a nice little space heater in the corner just in case. And with that being said, welcome to yet another live stream. Today we're going to be talking about our or my editing workflow when it comes to editing videos. This is off of the back of a certain thing that happened this week. Oh, I'm freaking myself out here. All right, for no reason. One of the things that happened this week, which was my first video was completed, edited, and uploaded to Ecamm, as I now begin to edit more and more videos now. There's other videos that are in the pipeline, but it was the first one that I was able to complete. And the day that I completed it, on Monday, to my surprise, it was debuted on the ENN network show, Ecamm, Anna and Fulgen. So it was an extremely pleasant surprise, and I was really excited about that and learning how the flow is going to go. And as you can hear, Aiden, he's full of energy and ready to rock and roll tonight with all of us, because I was actually speaking to Peter Gregg earlier today, and I mentioned to him via text that, you know, Aiden had just taken a nap, and he's like, he's gonna wake up right at 11 to have it ready to go. And man, I'll tell you the truth, I made it by the hair on my chin, how they say, because like he woke up just minutes before I was already like prepping food and all this stuff. So make sure that he's taken care of. Now he's on the floor with his entertainment and his toys, and we're hanging out here on the stream. And with that being said, let me check the chat to see exactly who is here. All right. First, we have Master Moderator, the Paul Duncan. Okay, let's resize this stuff real quick. I totally, nuked and paved my live stream setup, as you can see. I forgot to do the comments, so I'll purplize them later. But right now, we're just going to roll with it. I totally redid my live stream setup. Last week, it was giving me an issue where the intro didn't move into the first scene automatically, and then the outros or like the end of show also wasn't working. So I just decided to wipe it clean and start all over again, start from scratch. And I'll tell you the truth, it looks so clean now. So actually, let me actually show you. It's Command Shift D, and I believe now you can see what I see, right? And as you can see, my scenes here to the left, just very, like, it's small, there's nothing there. My scenes or my overlays are just completely organized, ready to rock and roll. So let's see, Command Shift D. Yep. Okay, so that should be good to go now. We're gonna continue with that. Scott Rogers is here saying, great topic. Okay, let's see this. This should be over here. Boop. There we go. Right on top. And on top, let's lock that on the scene as well. And we continue. All right. Things are looking good. Kevin Cox is in the house saying hello to all. Let's see, everybody's saying hi to everyone. Caleb is saying congrats on episode 61. Thank you, man. 61 episodes. I'll tell you the truth. It just, this number keeps climbing and climbing, and I can't wait to reach 100. I can't wait to reach 200. I don't know what's gonna happen, how this is gonna evolve, if this, because this is kind of like a podcast format. So I'm also gonna try to keep that format or try to kind of hone it in as well. I don't know if you guys also notice, I'm also trying to keep it down to an hour to also make it more digestible for the ones who can't make it to be able to watch it on replay, and also for my own editing purposes, which we'll get to in a little bit, because when I try to repurpose these edits, live stream repurposing is not as easy as editing a video, in my opinion, for the reason that you have to condense a lot of information that's stretched out throughout the time period of the live stream, and you actually have to listen to it. You can't just like go and just like have at it and chop it up like I would a video that's pretty much scripted, because of the simple fact that I know where the pauses are, I know what's the next thing to be said, so on and so forth. So when it comes to the live stream and how it's like everything's improv in that manner, you actually have to listen to it and replay it. And for example, I've had some live streams that are 3 hours, so then to re-listen to that entire live stream for 3 hours while I'm trying to pluck out the nuggets of information, the value in it, I also realized that how tough that would be for somebody else to rewatch it as well. And I am a avid consumer of long form content on this platform, whether it's podcast and things like that. These are one of the things that I think that this platform lends it to, and it's not bad because you kind of put it in the background and you're kind of like a passive listener. There's not a lot of flash going on with my live streams, right? So with that, you could kind of just like listen to the replay like a podcast, which is why it also got me thinking like maybe I should form it more into kind of like a podcast style to maybe actually kill two birds with one stone. And if you were here last week, you know that I got my Zoom PodTrack P4, and it's made it the easiest so far to be able to record the entire broadcast. Like, I didn't do it this week, but if I actually find a form where I feel like this is something that I am gonna be editing for podcasting, not only can I grab it from the video, but I can also have a backup recording directly to the SD card because of this little system here. The Rodecaster Pro does that as well. But as far as my setup goes, I have something new in the setup to show you as well. So let me get to that, which is my third angle, or my behind the scenes cam. So as you can see right now, just grabbing my mug here, just moving this out of the way, this is like the cleanest setup that I've had so far. So let me take that out so that you can see, like, this has been super clean. Over here, I have my DBX 286 S, and then this is just my keyboard and mouse for my Windows PC, which, if you can see, sits back there with all of my other Sony, PlayStation, PSPs, so on and so forth. But this is what I'm looking at right now, and one of the key features that I grabbed, which is one of my most recent purchases, is my new keyboard, which is the Logitech MX Keys Mini. So let's go back to this. Wireless Bluetooth keyboard. And the reason why is because, as you can see, it looks like my old Mac or my old Apple keyboard. And then on top of that has the ability to connect up to 3 devices here. You see the 1, 2, and 3 right there? Those are 3 devices that you can connect via Bluetooth. So now I have my Mac M1 Mini here on the number 1, my MacBook Pro, which if I go back to this shot, you can see sits right here on top of my M1. So this is my M1 here. This is my MacBook Pro sitting right on top of it. I have my keyboard, and then also for the third one is for my iPad. So that's the latest thing, and that all has to do with my workflow. my Stream Deck, which is my #1 component when it comes to pretty much everything that I do. I've mentioned that I use this daily, and I can't emphasize that more. But I've totally cleaned up my workstation with this setup now, and I'm extremely happy with that. So we're gonna go here, and I'm gonna get into looking at the comments again. Okay, so we got Dr. Sev is also here in the house. What's up? Kevin Cox, Randall is here as well. That's right, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, all right? Because I always forget to mention it, but I'm starting to get better at these things if you haven't already. Okay, we got Richard's here as well. We have Nano in the house. You see Paul's the man. He's already saying be sure to hit that like button. John saying hi, crew. Awesome to be here. We always appreciate you here. All right, we have biotech and bioinformatics with Professor Greg. Well, I'm guessing your name is Greg. Howdy, welcome to the live stream, and thank you for saying hi. I really appreciate you, making yourself known here in the stream. Also, Philip R. Peck, your stream looks so good. Love the background and overall color scheme. Thank you, I appreciate it. It's always a work in progress. I have a lot of fun with it, and just to show you, I have these RGB colored lights that I control usually through Siri, but let me not, I don't want to blow up everybody's iPhone. But at the same time, I can change all of my schemes. So I have quite a few, like my live stream lights here. I have this one, which I call Alicia Way, because, Alicia Way, we live. This is his color scheme. But my favorite right now is what I call the fireplace, which has been set up, particular to the new fireplace scheme that I got rolling in the background since this past holiday. I'm liking it, so I appreciate it. And welcome to the stream. I believe this is the first time that I've seen you here. Also, Umesh Smart. Have no idea, but thank you. Says that's my favorite keyboard. I have the non-mini version has the number pad. I love the way feels of the MX keys. That's the whole thing. I was so interested in the full size one because of the functionality, but because of the limited space that I have here, I did not want to go with the full size. So this holiday they came out with these MX minis, and I was like, okay, now I don't have an excuse. So that was kind of like a belated Christmas gift to myself, and I'm really ecstatic. That with the MX Master S2 mouse that I've had for a while, just a perfect combination, because I also have another thing called Flow that works with the mouse. So with a simple press of command, or actually control on the keyboard, whether I'm on my Mac Mini or on my MacBook Pro, I can switch, without having to press any buttons. Just literally just hold down control, swipe to the right of my Mac Mini screen, and the mouse automatically appears on my MacBook Pro. And then when I want to stop using the MacBook Pro and jump back to it, is just press the control key on the MacBook Pro and just kind of like head left, and it goes right back to the Mac Mini. That little feature with the mouse and the simple, button press to switch from each computer on the keyboard itself is a perfect combination that, I'm absolutely 100% sold. 100% recommend that to anyone who's been thinking about it. Okay. Says I'm using a Keychron K2 version 2 Bluetooth keyboard on my Mac Mini. Those are the mechanical keyboards, I believe, right? The Keychrons. My nephew's really big into it. He went into it. We were just talking about it this weekend. He went into it because he went in and bought like a really good keyboard and soldered and changed all the keycaps to what he wanted and basically invested $300 into his mechanical keyboard. And then the company that he bought it from came out with an interchangeable switch keyboard that makes it extremely easy to do all the work that he did with all the extras for like $100. He was a little deflated, but also a good learning experience. I told him it's better that the company actually still looks right at the fact that like that's excuse me, that's what people were doing with their product and then implemented it with their latest version. So I'm like, innovation's always good, so it's not like you invested incorrectly. He says, unfortunately, I'm having issues pairing it reliably with Windows. Not too sure. I don't have that keyboard. Sorry. Raphael is in the house saying, happy Saturday. How are you doing, sir? He says, good guess. Okay, well, welcome, Greg. FCP for the win. Absolutely. Final Cut Pro is like the thing. And let's talk about that when it comes to editing. I'm checking. We have Mr. Marine X in the house. How are you doing? Says, what is your t-shirt? Oh, this shirt today, this one is one of my older ones. This is coming back to press and sew soon. This design is called Glass Before Ass, where optics are always more important than the camera body. So let's see. As you can see, we're talking about lenses. The photographer in me, right? And Paul says Universal Control will be out on the next Mac OS version 12.3. Well, that's great because I'm going to need it for the iPad, right? I'm going to be getting a new iPad soon. Well, with that being said, I want to talk about my editing workflow. It's easier said than done, right? Because a lot of people think that like editing is just like kind of just chop it up, put it together. But when it comes to editing videos for the YouTube platform, it's a whole nother monster. My background and the things that I've learned for editing was more for like filmmaking and things like that. So you had long holds on shots, to emphasize what you wanted to tell in your story. But when it comes to this platform, everything's like, fast pace, and you have to almost cut out like the breaths in between the words, and you have to be careful because there are words that are very breathy, that like and if you cut certain words off too early, they don't have impact and they do not sound correctly. Well, that's when you'll learn about different editing techniques like the J cuts and L cuts, which is where you will allow the audio to linger and still fill in the space, or actually start like a track with someone laughing. You hear the laughter before you see it in the next shot. Excuse me. Let's hydrate. Scott says, did you see that the Elgato released a foot switch Stream Deck, $89? Yes. It interested me. I was thinking, let me see if they're still available when it comes to the beginning of the month, and I might be able to buy it. That thing ran rampant through the LGL and all the communities real fast. This is really big right now. And they like sold out in no time, so we'll see exactly how that works out. But I did see it. There was no way that I missed it. It looks very interesting, and for this it will be really cool. But I got certain tricks up my sleeve, right? Well, going back to it, when it comes to editing videos, the first thing that I do when it comes to my editing workflow and this is just saying, granted, I'm not sure exactly how you do it, but I've already picked my timeline settings and so on and so forth, and I've just imported the footage into the timeline. So I'm looking at it for the first time. Before I do anything with the visuals, the first thing that I edit is the audio. And Raphael is here in the chat. I actually been trying out the application that you mentioned, Time Bolt, in one of your more recent videos. So I'm checking it out for re-editing live streams. That's where I really thought that I would be able to use it the most, but I'm still learning the program to see exactly how that works out. Definitely used your code, just to let you know. And I'm trying it out right now in the month to month to see if it's something that I could implement in my workflow. I'm gonna try to see if I can tweak it right to actually cut out all the unnecessary dead space in my live streams, but it's kind of tough because I believe, because I run music as a music bed, that it won't find those dead space, the dead air space, to try to help me out with it. But I am going to be trying it with my own personal edits, which is why I really start with the audio. When it comes to editing, the first thing that I do is cut out all the dead space. So I will look at the timeline and I'll just see all the spots where we have no audio, which should be evident. And I quickly just go right away and just start chopping away and getting rid of all that, what I would call fat. So I just get rid of all the fat right on the audio, and that's, now I have the meat of the video. Once I have that, then I start listening to the audio, and once again, I'm still editing the audio of the video before I'm even looking at the actual shots, because I know more or less what I have, right? So I will make sure that the story or the message that I'm trying to portray is something that's easily listened to. Well, one of the sayings that I have is bad audio is unwatchable. Well, that has to do with also editing the audio as much as you edit the video itself. But I'm mostly at this pass listening to make sure that what I'm saying makes sense and that I'm not repeating myself. And if I do have a section where I trip up on my words, that's quickly just removed, especially because I have edited the fat in between all of the clips, that I can just highlight a clip and just drop it off very easily. Once I have what I call my storyline, or the main part of what's going to be said, my information line, then that's when I will now start looking at the actual video that goes with it, to see if make sure that my lips are in sync with the audio. That's first off. But usually at this point I already have it to the point where I'm not having sync issues, because I'm using Ecamm to do all of my recordings. So instead of trying to make sure that the audio and everything, I've already done all of the legwork. So the same feed that you see here for the live streams is the same thing that you would see for my videos as well. Aiden's getting excited there. So because I have that locked in, even color grading to this point, stuff that I used to do with my earlier footage and earlier videos, is stuff that I kind of have baked in, which is what's allowing me to speed up my workflow. But once I have that information line, so to speak, that's when I just start making sure that the video does match, and that I'm not just kind of blinking awkwardly in one shot where I have my eye half closed, or that I look weird, so to speak. Anything that I would see that would kind of be distracting is going to be the next thing that I look for in the video footage. and start applying what I had mentioned before, what will be kind of like a J cut or an L cut. For those of you who've never heard this term, right, you can Google it, but I'm going to try to break it down as simple as possible. It's a J cut and an L cut is basically the way the letters are shaped, right? The J kind of goes from, from right to left, meaning that the audio track is actually going to start before the video is displayed, meaning the video track on top of your editing timeline and the audio that sits beneath it, the cut will kind of go from top towards the left and then back down, creating sort of like that top to left action in your timeline, kind of looking like the letter J. So once it goes there, meaning that the footage extends over the audio and the audio is being, listened to before you actually see the footage, that's what we call a J cut. And then the L cut is the opposite, towards the end of the clip, so to speak, where the audio is going to linger, and that's when I had mentioned before, words that are breathy or laughter that could like linger on while you're already looking at another shot. This is also easily implemented when you add B-roll to your footage, because let's say you have the audio correct and the message is there, but your video footage or whatever you recorded, maybe you looked off, a little funny, or maybe you started looking down towards your notes a little bit early. And with that, you can supplement the imagery by adding B-roll, which is footage where you're emphasizing whatever it is that you're talking about in your video. With that being said, that is kind of more of an example of what we would see an L cut, meaning that your audio, the talking head portion, will continue in that fashion underneath the footage that's being placed on top. So those are just a couple of simple ways of kind of trying to explain an L and a J cut, because the L will have like the top to right motion, not top to left, resembling the letter L. So that's the difference, kind of a J and an L cut. Okay, let's see where we're at now. Well, with that, once I've have that implemented and I have now my cuts the way that I want, my audio and any footage that could not be to my liking, covered up with some B-roll or any of that sort, and I'm happy with the way that it looks, that's where I will now start implementing kind of like the special effects, or like the lower thirds, the information, kind of like what you're seeing here. I'm not sure which camera, right there, you understand, lower thirds are the things that are like the ticker underneath. That is what I will start implementing. And after I've implemented what, like some visual cues, some special effects, some things to break the monotony of the video, that's when I will now go back to audio and start editing and adding sound effects to go with all of those things. And something that, I do now is called sound design, which is if you are showing footsteps, you have the sound effects of footsteps. If I'm showing Velcro, I'm recording audio for Velcro, right? To be able to apply that to the video, because it's something that the audio cues are so important. And when you're able to fill the story with audio, there's a lot of videos that you can watch in that manner that don't need a word to be said, because you're doing the story, the sound design correctly. So once now that I have the sound design is when I'm going to now export the audio. And the audio that I export to edit is just the talking head part when it comes to my videos in particular, and for like YouTube. I am now exporting just the audio because I want to have control over the sound effects to make sure that some are not higher than what I want it to be. You can leave the sound effects in there and it will all be leveled out, but I like to have a little bit more control. So one of the things that Doc Rock actually, mentioned to me, and this was well into last year and I've been using it religiously, is Alphonic. I've mentioned it on the live stream before, and Alphonic is a audio editing or like audio mastering software that is free online. So I take my files once I've exported the audio wave from Final Cut Pro, and I upload it to Alphonic, and I have it like leveled and regulated to negative 16 LUFS, which is I forget, because I thought I knew what it meant, but I think I'm wrong as well. But it's like loudness under full scale or something like that. With that being said, I make sure that I also have settings particular to the way that I like my audio. So I make it mono so that it sounds the same level on both right and left for stereo, and that's something that I do particular for YouTube, for the simple reason that I guess my experience of fixing phones, I also know that a lot of people are walking around and watching YouTube with only one speaker on their phone working, and the stereo capability is completely shot. So I guess with that always in the back of my mind, I always make sure that the emphasis of the audio of the spoken word part is in mono, so that it comes out in equal force through whichever speaker whoever might be listening is using. Then I also make sure that I export it back to a wave, because it's the richest file. It could be MP3, but that's just the way that I do it, in my workflow. And once again, I make sure that it's regulated to the 16 LUFS, and I don't do any noise processing or anything like that, because the file should be good enough, and what we need is like leveling. So if someone that speaks very low, and that's the type of edit that you're doing, you're able to take their low voice and bring it up to the standard level that it's going to sound nice and rich throughout the entire track. So now that I have downloaded that edited file from Alphonic, I'm throwing it right back into Final Cut Pro. I'm obviously, let me not say that, right? It's not obvious. Before I take the audio back in there, I make sure that I take all the audio that was playing on the timeline in Final Cut Pro and bring it down to 0, so that I'm no longer using that audio, and now I'm only listening to the audio vocal that's coming from the track that I downloaded from Alphonic. Now that that's in the timeline, I make sure that it's lined correctly, which is usually just bring it all the way to the front, because it's an exact image of what was there prior. Make sure that the audio is synchronized, then go to the steps of checking all of my sound effects to make sure that they're at the level that I want, and then once again double check the entire file. Make sure that just give it like the one last pass through, listen to it to make sure that I'm not repeating myself, that I didn't say anything ridiculous. Then make sure that it all makes sense. Then make sure that all the sound effects and that all of the special effects that I added are working correctly. All of the plugins, it's because sometimes, believe it or not, even though everything says that it's working, some of the plugins and some of the special effects and transitions won't come out, and when you export the file, you'll see like a big red screen on where the transition was supposed to be. I've seen plenty of YouTube videos where that has happened, or it says like missing file or something, and it just makes me laugh, because I know the work that goes into editing videos. And now where I'm at a point where the video is like I'm comfortable with the edit, is where I will now go choose the export type, so on and so forth. I was doing MOV, but I'm now exporting an MP3. Not that much of a difference I'm seeing in the file itself, but I am seeing it a little bit in the file size. It's just a little bit smaller. No big deal, but they seem to be easier to upload. And all of those steps is what I take to edit a single video for this YouTube platform. Now, there are other methods or other effects that you can add. I've used this one effect called flow, and what it does is that it flows between your edits and smooths them out, almost like a morphing, where done correctly, which I always try to do, it makes it seem seamless on all of your cuts, no matter how long the space was in between. But what I've noticed is that when I've done my videos using the flow, they kind of lose engagement, because the jump cuts tend to keep viewers on the YouTube platform more engaged, because they're just kind of like accustomed to it. They've seen it so much, and when they're sitting here watching YouTube, they're not really expecting cinematic transitions that you would see in a like Michael Bay movie. And even though that's something that I'm capable of doing and I like doing, what I've realized is that it actually doesn't benefit me on this platform when you're editing for YouTube, because it's almost like, there's even times where I would just crop into the same shot, because I feel like the message could be just a little bit too long without having any movement or anything changing in the shot. And because I have nothing to supplement besides my words when it comes to visuals, I will just simply just do a simple crop in and out on that shot, and little things like that to break up, the shot, so to speak, or the flow in the visuals, actually causes the retention to increase when it comes to your videos on YouTube. Well, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If you have any questions about what I do, or any suggestions that could help me out, leave them in the comments. I'm gonna go through them now. But if you do have any questions, please make sure to put a Q in front of them so that I don't miss them. I am able to search for them with the Q ahead, just to make sure that I do answer all the questions here. So let's go back to this. Okay, we were here with Paul talking about universal control. Let's see where we're at. And Scott telling me about the foot pedal. Yes. Okay. Paul is awesome, saying that coffee cup is available at MrCameraJunkie.live/merch. Yes, it'll take you to Press and Sew, where you can get your own 16-ounce pint mug with the logo. Upgrade your skills. A little coffee ASMR. There we go. Tom Buck is in the house. Okay, Raphael says, I use Time Bolt in every project now. Ecamm records all the audio tracks separate. You can use it as a base. Oh, that's so true. You see, that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say if you have like a tip or anything to leave in there, because we all learn from each other. That's what I love about, this live stream. Such amazing people here, and you can get such really good information. Kevin saying, I really like the new third angle. Okay, thank you. That is actually the iPhone XR, right? And it's giving me a wide enough angle here to give me this behind the scenes shot. So I'm liking it. It's pretty interesting because it's hovering here on an arm. Let me see once the shot goes over. This thing right here, that's where that phone is actually clipped onto. So it's got an arm that's just hanging right there that just brings it, and it allows me to still run a USB cable to the Mac Mini. So really does the job, and you know, it's not like on Wi-Fi, so there's really no delay on it. So I'm really liking it. And then the last thing, it's hanging in the air, so it's away from Aiden. He can't get to it, so when there as well. Cool thing is that I can retract it and also make it an overhead shot in no time, right? So let me go ahead and do that. Okay. Yeah, so now if you can see it right here. All right. Now it is officially my overhead shot as well. So it's giving me a lot of versatility, and it's literally my iPhone XR. What you're seeing is me and my creativity. This right here is a modification. As you can see, there we go. Oh, I messed with there we go, the focus. And now it's my overhead shot. See? But this was me. I use this stuff religiously, man. Foam core. Let me see if I can get it to focus right here. Foam core. Oh, I have pieces all over the place. I use this stuff for everything. So you know what? Let me change the shot back to my wide angle. Okay, well, let me take that off as the way. Right here, my iPad, you can see this base here. It's completely constructed out of foam core. The same thing here with my Zoom PodTrack P4. Even to the point where I created a dust shield for my Zoom PodTrack P4 so that now it stays nice and clean when I'm not live streaming. I think it is the most versatile, literally the most versatile material for light construction work. I've created so many things here in my setup, and one of them, I'm gonna have to take a picture of it and put it in the Discord for you guys. But it is the cell phone case that I created, well, that I've modified. So I had this simple little silicone cell phone case for my iPhone XR. And what I did was I hot glued basically a matte box handle and so on and so forth to that case, just to allow me to shoot better video with it and actually block off all the different light sources. So the light that you see behind me here, the blue, right, will actually clip that lens just a little bit. So I had to create this like matte box on the on the case itself, just so that it would actually be able to, so that I can use it for this shot. But all these little things that I make with the foam core is just, I have fun with it. And oh, actually, that's one of the things, if you haven't even realized, my entire light setup, right? All of this is made out of foam core. See? So I've been able to use this all throughout my light, my setup. This is so funny because without this camera angle, I think this is the best way that I've been able to illustrate it, right? Look at my lamp over here. It's just a desk lamp that I modified by putting a grid that I made out of foam core in front of it. And that's how I rock my live stream now. This year, as I mentioned, upgrade your skills, right? Upgrade your skills before your gear, but I am going to upgrade my gear. So I am going to get better lighting, I am going to do a couple of things to level up my setup, right? Minor things, but I can't say that it's done me bad. I've had so much fun with it, and I continue to use this foam core for so many different things. You've seen the first iteration of my dust cover for my Zoom pod track, but because of the shape, it gave me an idea. So you'll see the future iterations of my dust shield. Let's go back to the chat. Raphael was talking about time bulbs. Okay, Caleb saying this is great advice. I'm taking notes. Thank you. Says sounds like you have a great workflow setup. It's still a work in progress, but I do like it. Oh, don't get me started, Kevin. He says sounds like no, that's the old message. He says I would be curious to see what you would come up with a 3D printer. Man, don't even get me started. If I had room here for a 3D printer, I would probably have one already. And that's one of the things is like I told Tom Buck before, I was like, because if you go and you look back at Tom's channel way at the beginning, you'll realize that he started with 3D printers. And I was like, I was this close of starting with something like that just because they interest me so much. I haven't had the room for it, but that's something that, believe it or not, is something that I might be getting into this year. You understand? There's just too many things that I constantly, think of, and that like I have an idea for. Like I need a tray, right? A particular tray to hold water, and I know that the foam core can't hold water for crap, right? So can't use that, and I'm looking for different methods. So there's case scenarios, right, that are popping up more often that I'm like could justify me getting into a 3D printer. One of the channels that I've mentioned before that I like is called Major Hardware, where he 3D prints computer fans and tests out people's designs. So that's another thing that I'm also thinking, that if I get a 3D printer, I will then learn the 3D printing software, which will then have me printing a fan and probably submitting it to that challenge, because it's so much fun. Why not, right? I've been watching that channel like while he's been blowing up with this whole fan showdown. He's like in season 3 or 4, you understand? And his Discord and his Thingiverse account keeps blowing up. So much fun. But talking about that, I'm gonna hit this and mention Cities Gaw, right? Channels that I think you should go and watch. And this week's channel that I think you should go and watch is Hayden Hillier Smith. He's the editor for Jake Paul. That's not really why, that's probably like one of the negatives for him, in my opinion. No, I'm just messing around, But Jake Paul is a huge content creator on this platform. Like him or not, to each his own. But his editor, Hillier Smith, that's his channel on YouTube. He gives a lot of great pointers. He's also, like Raphael Ludwig, someone who actually, has such amazing content if you're looking to level up your editing. And he's someone who looks at editing not so much in the form of that he's going to give you all the tips for your favorite editing program. He's going to give you the tips that you really don't like the insights to the reason why people make certain cuts and what you're trying to keep when it comes to sight lines, You've probably heard a bunch throughout all of, like a bunch of videos about the rule of thirds and so on and so forth, and how they're placed, what it looks like, and how to use them. But the sight lines, the eye lines, where you want the person to see, and to make sure that if you're like switching from one shot to another, that people's like their eye height, so to speak, their line of sight where their eyes are, stays consistent, so that like the person doesn't look like they're changing height between shot after shot, so that consistency between each shot makes a huge difference when it comes to editing. And all those little nuances is where Hayden Hillier-Smith really, I think, gives you a really good insight, and it's got a great channel that I think you should go and watch. I think you should go check out a lot of it. One of my favorite ones was when he broke down like the Dark Knight movie edit, and he tries to either recreate the edits or tries to improve upon them. So he's got a lot of great content, both educational and entertainment, and he's the guy that I think you should go and watch for this week. So if you haven't already, I do have a Discord server. I'm learning it, right? We're we jumped on, and last week it was pretty cool because after I mentioned it, some of you got on, and I actually was able to have a quick video chat with John and Paul, which was completely impromptu because it was not even planned, but it turned out to be like a lot of fun. And it's something that I think might be happening in the future, because it's kind of like a Zoom thing where everyone who's available to jump on with their camera is able to converse, and having the conversation. Even though the live streams are cool, to have that aspect of it on the Discord was just really, really cool. So it was really a lot of fun to spend that extra time with Paul and John last Saturday. So I think I'll be doing that some more in the future. But if you haven't already, you could join the Discord, and in there is this section that I had just mentioned, Cities Gaw. It's gonna be there. Channels I think you should go and watch. Cities Gaw. I love that. Shout out to Davey for giving me the inspiration to be a little bit more jovial, playful. That was something that Miss Diana Gladney mentioned to me as well, saying, hey, you know what? Let people know who you are. So here I am, week in and week out, having fun with you guys and sharing my insights and my love for all of these things when it comes to content creation, video editing, photography, cameras. And amazingly, I have a group of camera junkies that is here in every week to hang out and do the same. So awesome. There goes Paul, dropping the Discord server link. Awesome, master moderator. Let's see what Kevin says. It's a deep rabbit hole, the 3D printing. It says, I have one and have neglected it after an epic fail. You see, like, I've researched a lot on them, like whether I'm going to be doing filament or resin or so on and so forth, what size. But I really have to think about it because I am very limited with space here, especially with Aiden. So if I'm going to be doing 3D printing, it's going to be filament, because I can't run the risk of Aiden getting into resins, especially with it being something that's like corrosive material that seeps through your skin and will affect you even if you don't know it, just by, can't even risk that type of chemical around this little guy. So with that being said, it will definitely be filament fed 3D printing. And there's so many things, man. Like, there's so many things that I can tell you when it comes to photography and video that are just like little, like, oh, I wish I had a clip for this so that I can do this on my camera. And I wish I could give you a better example of that right now, but there's so many things that just run through my head that I know if I had a 3D, like CAD program for a 3D printer, I would definitely be just like throwing so many ideas into that. Even if it's something as simple as creating a gear for a follow focus for a vintage lens. So many things that are available to be done with 3D printing that it's something that I, you know, great minds think alike, right? So definitely 3D printing is something that I'm so interested in. It's funny because the foam core thing, there's this channel that I also watch, I'm subscribed to, called, oh, I'm gonna butcher the name right now. I think it's Flight Path, or I'm mixing the names. But basically, they do RC remote control RC airplanes, and they actually provide kits almost like for 3D printing, but to create your own like foam core airplanes. And I was like, that is just amazing. They have a pretty big channel. I think they're over 1 million subscribers. They have a like conference every year where all these remote control airplane pilots come out and have like an air show at a gigantic golf course that they were able to purchase through their YouTube channel. It's just, this thing is really something else. That's just me going into YouTube itself, like the possibilities. Like, these guys were able to purchase a golf course that now houses their business of foam core remote control airplanes, all through the power of this amazing platform that we call YouTube. It's so crazy, the things that are available here, and that's why I sit here in awe and amazement of the things that are possible. I've created amazing friendships, an amazing community. I'm, embarking on a new video editing endeavor, gaining clients, learning every day, sharing my experience and my knowledge with this community, and just being humbled and being grateful every step of the way. So, what can you say, right? What can you say? This is extremely, extremely dope. So, yes, sir. All right, so Lewis made it, sneaking in the little back door. Well, we're closing things out here around the hour period. Aiden is complaining for some reason right now. Give me a second. Come here. Come here. Let's say hi to people. Someone's upset. Come on. What's going on? Okay. Well, with that, Lewis sneaking in through the back door, I'm going to thank everyone for hanging out with me. I didn't see any questions, and I ran through all of this. The only question was curious about the 3D printer, which, man, that is a huge, huge rabbit hole. But I want to thank all of you, as always, for hanging out with me here at the Camera Junkie live stream. Number 61 in the books. So guess what? Next week we'll be right back here, number 62. I'm not gonna lie to you, January kind of kicked my butt, man. January had to pull on the reins, so to speak, for a lot of things. I was still being very creative, but it was just being spread out in so many different ways. but I'm ready to get into gear now in February. I think I have a grasp and a good idea of what is to come in the next couple of months, which is basically as far as I'm looking, I'm looking to try to set everything up because I'm working my way to social media marketing world in San Diego. So that's my next goal. And then we'll see where we go from there, right? We'll set new goals for the second quarter of this year when we get there. But as of right now, I'm looking to, like I mentioned before, work on my media kit to reach out to sponsors for the live stream as I work on my production business, editing videos, and creating content, working my way ever so closer to full-time content creation and having only that being on my docket. So super excited to get to work. And with that being said, thank you as always. Take care of yourselves. I will see you all here next week. Same time, same place, same Camera Junkie channel. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you next time. Have a good night, everyone.